Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be video about the pattern. What's to expect in the coming weeks, or the coming days. So before we get into this, my channel is about weather. I talk about the weather. If you are new, consider checking out my videos. Consider checking out the channel and see for yourself if this channel is worthy of a subscription for you. Now, if you are a consistent viewer, you like watching this channel, consider liking this video, as that's probably the best thing you could do. And if you want to leave a comment, you could do so as well. So we're looking at the GFS, right? The Global Forecasting System model. It's one of the many models I use. It's a long-range model, which is why predominantly is why I really use it that well or that much, is because it's very long range. It does a relatively good job in the long range, and it predicts storms fairly well, you know, probably equally as good as a European, honestly, to be honest with you. The European has had a better reputation in GFS over the past decade or two, or past decade really. But because of ongoing changes, the European has been a little bit slacking, but that's perfectly fine, as the GFS has been doing a better job. It just makes a forecast, I guess, a little bit harder for us, weather enthusiast, meteorologist. I'm not a meteorologist, just a weather enthusiast, but it makes it also funner. So again, we have this system that's going to develop possibly some snow across Alabama, northern Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky. This is going to move into the portions of the Northeast. You can see some pretty heavy snow will occur across Maine, upstate New York, into Pennsylvania. So that's definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on for this system. If you live in the Northeast, you could be either seeing rain, ice, snow, all of that sort. I mean, seriously, this will be a pretty tight gradient. We're going from Boston seeing heavy rain and relatively warm temperatures for winter, and then you go into upstate New York, not even that far, maybe into Albany, and you could be seeing the 1 to 2 inch snowfall rates per hour. So very, very impressive system. Now we move into the future, and what's to come. We have this blast of chillier air. Now it's not going to be freezing. If you were to look at the anomalies, it's a little bit cooler. Nothing too extraordinary. You can see the cooler air, but some pockets of warm air above average temperatures will be present. Again, it's February, so things are starting to warm up. So it'll be getting harder and harder to have, big snows, if you will. But it depends. It depends because the temperatures will be more marginal, so there may be a little bit more mixing with storms, coming into the spring months, right? But the thing is that with the warm air, there's more moisture, and these storms could actually become supercharged and super loaded with moisture, causing these storms to actually overproduce, being big snowmakers. Possibly even bigger ones than the ones we've been having, which really haven't been much this winter, but there's been a few notable ones. So let's look at the future. We look at Saturday. We have the system coming in from the northwest. This one will have a lot of moisture. It's anything but moisture. So it comes into the Pacific Northwest, dumps quite a bit of snow across the mountains. Lower elevations will see mainly light rain out of this, light to moderate rain. Then this system doesn't weaken. It really develops this frontal genesis band of snow that is basically the word for a strong, basically all you have to know about that is there's strong support in the atmosphere for a very strong heavy band of snow. This thing is just a typical clipper. However, it won't be coming from the north. It will be more coming from the west. You can see that this is all Pacific moisture, and it's strong enough. It's not that weak. It's strong enough that when it's sitting right here and it's spinning, you can see with the help of it, possibly another low pressure right there, it spins up moisture, this first one. The second one kind of latches onto this moisture and really causes some pretty good moisture to come into the system for this size. I mean, this is not a large system. This would normally be more of a nuisance than a concern, right? But these snowfall rates will be extremely heavy across portions of southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, up to 9 inches of snow possibly. Then we start getting a little bit of snow across Illinois, Indiana. If you were looking at this and you're seeing rain all the way to the Wisconsin border, around this line, I would say that the GFS is putting it a little bit far to the north. The rain snow line should be more further to the south, as the temperature soundings and the thermal profiles are more supportive of all snow rather than liquid precipitation for this time. And I think that the European and the Canadian do a better job with that, bringing the rain snow line a bit further to the south. Now, granted, it will be some heavy wet snow. It won't be light, dry, powdery snow, but I don't think there will be rain mixing in as far north as Chicago should say relatively to the south. And you could see this doesn't really evolve into a giant storm as it moves on to the east. Delivers some snow for Michigan, and then just transitions to rain, snow across the northeast, and really just dies away. We see a blast of cooler air across the country midweek, next week, Wednesday, Thursday, and this is where just the models, in terms of one particular storm, just go completely different ways. I mean, obviously it's very far out, but the confidence on this is so low that it's just weird, because at the beginning, say a couple days ago, the GFS was showing a big storm around the Thursday, Wednesday time frame. You can see the cold air is there. We have the moisture from the south. The GFS keeps it way to the south, delivering a little bit of snow maybe to the Carolinas, right? Not much. The European, on the other hand, was showing a bigger storm like the GFS, but now it continues to show a pretty large system across the country, across the Wednesday, Thursday time frame, while the GFS keeps the moisture way to the south. So at least there's the moisture to the south in terms of the GFS. You know, at least it has the ingredients, just very disconnected and not really, I guess, likely to produce a big storm out of it. That's what the GFS is saying. It's really tough to say at this point what will happen. We'll have to see, go into the weekend. This storm is still, you know, really not even close to being on the land. It's still very far off. You can see it's this little storm right here that would be causing this, and that system is, I guess, an offshoot of the one that we'll be seeing on Saturday, Sunday. But it's gonna be tough to say which one. But we have a possible snowstorm Wednesday, Thursday that could occur. The GFS isn't supportive of that, but the other models are. So we'll see which one's right. At this point, it's basically a coin toss, that I should say. It's really nothing to be too concerned. I mean, we could be looking at a big storm, we could not. That's all I could say at this point. Notice we get into more of a cooler pattern. We see several smaller storms, clippers. The GFS keeps constant moisture in the southern U.S., getting uncomfortably close to the northeast. With the cold air, we could be seeing some development right there. GFS backed down on the big storms, but it still shows the moisture, but it has really backed down on the significant storms, which is again why the GFS is often used or viewed as a very erratic model. It just goes from storm to no storm, from very snowy pattern to a less snowy pattern to a completely not snowy pattern. If you were to look at the snowfall amounts, they're much lower than they were say yesterday at this time. They're still relatively moderate, but nothing what they were showing yesterday. That's the GFS for you. And honestly, let me tell you that the European has been much better. It's you like to view it as a good model and a little bit better than the GFS, but really this winter has been underperforming. Again, that's probably to do with the change that's going on. Let's look at the European model now. Let's just see. Let's look at the 500 millibar height anomalies, and this basically shows us where the temperatures are colder and warmer based on the 500 millibars of pressure height, and it basically also shows us where the storm systems are marked by these low pressures. Again, we have a pretty strong system. This one is going to be a big one, the European things, for Friday across the northeast. And some of the high resolution models, you may be underestimating that power, so we'll have to see. But it looks like a big snow is incoming for the northeast in the next 24 to 48 hours. We get a little bit of cooler air. We see that Sunday, Saturday system right there marked by that little closed-in center. That's always a low pressure. Really, again, doesn't do much once it further moves off, so it just weakens. Not really marked by low pressure, red low pressure by this graph. Not big enough. Then we see, you can see the storm coming across the country Thursday, and this one again would be producing more snow than what the GFS is showing. And obviously, it would be more of an active pattern if the European were to be right. Let's look at the Canadian model. I wanted to show you the Canadian to see what's coming out of this weekend system. It still brings quite a bit of rain and snow across the Pacific Northwest, as that's where really the least of the I guess, divergence of the models is. They're all agreeing on that storm arriving into the Pacific Northwest. Look at this though. Canadian really brings this pressure down to 9. Is that a 6 or an 8? Because if that's a 6, that's just a very strong system. Yeah, that brings it down to 9, 6, 9. I might be an 8, but either way, a very strong system could be developing out of the backside of this system, and right now that's developing across parts of Kentucky and Tennessee. Could be delivering some snow there. We move into the future. We notice that, let's wait for this to load. Usually it's a little bit of a pain. We notice that, again, we have this weekend system. You can see it's a bit further to the south, more across Iowa, Wisconsin, and it delivers more snow across northern Illinois, Indiana area, and into Ohio. Again, northeast, not seeing much out of this, it seems, by most of the models. I don't know what just happened there. And let's look at this in the forward. You can see we have that cooler shot of air into Tuesday, and then the the Canadian is kind of a mixture between the European and the GFS. It doesn't really show a super large system across the week, but it doesn't also show nothing. You can see it has a northern piece of energy right there. It also brings more into the northeast, but it's not what the European shows, and it's not really what the GFS shows either. But you can see it introduces more cold air than both of the models, so that's pretty interesting to note of. And it keeps things active as well, so that's at least that's the consistency with that as well. So let's look at the European model. Again, look at this. It keeps a very, very strong system across the northeast. This thing is looking to be fairly strong and potent, so a lot of snow could fall across the western Pennsylvania and western into eastern Ohio. You notice that it also brings a little bit of snow into Tennessee and Kentucky overnight today and into tomorrow. So that's definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on for. And again, look at that, 964 millibars of pressure, 969. That is very, very strong. High winds with this. There may be even some blizzard conditions with this, to be honest with you. There might be some blizzard warnings issued with this storm if this holds up. And this, again, we have that weekend system, which isn't overly powerful, but you notice how it brings a snow line a little bit further to the south than what the GFS does. And again, doesn't do much for the northeast, but it does deliver a little bit of a energy into the northeast, which we'll have to watch Wednesday and Thursday. You can see right there. This is going to be a little bit interesting. And then it has that that midweek storm, which would be very powerful, very strong, and we'll just have to see whether or not it keeps that up. And let's look at the total snowfall accumulations. Let me tell you that the northeast is looking at some pretty large amounts, pretty profound amounts of snow for the next 10 to 14 days. And notice this is from that first storm. You can see that it shows, again, quite a bit of snow across, especially in interior parts of the north, into New York. But it also includes a little bit of snow into Kentucky and Tennessee, 3 inches, 4 inches possibly. And then look at that, into New York, it's just really large amounts, though. It looks like it has the heaviest snow set up just to the north of the U.S. into Canada. But bits of Maine will get clipped pretty strong as well. Then we see that weekend storm. You could see, that's what I'm talking about. We could see up to 6, 7, 8 inches 8-inch amounts just out of that, and into southern Chicago, maybe 2 to 3 inches. Then we keep going forward. We have that weekend energy across the northeast, and then that bigger storm. And you can see that some of the amounts are pretty ridiculous up here. And if you were to look at the Kuchera amounts, which I won't pull it up as soon as it overhypes things, and I want to keep it down, but it would be well over 40 inches for these locations. So interior parts of Northeast look pretty good. For some snowy parts of Connecticut, 6, 7, 8 inches by the European in the next several days. Same with the Midwest. So lots of activity, lots of potential for snow. Stay tuned as this changes daily, and I'll keep all guys updated. So thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.